What is happening, baby? Welcome back to the Huddle Chat Sports Network's very own Fantasy Football Huddle. I'm your host, as always, Dallas Clark, also known as Indo as my Nindo, and we're presented by Danklyfe brand, Let's Talk Sports, and Shank It Golf brand. Today, we're talking about tons of stardoms and situms today, getting you ready for tomorrow's action, starting bright and early in London. So let's not waste any time, because I got a lot of players to go through, so I want to make sure I get them all to you. And I'm going to try to keep this into one episode if I can today. So fill up the cup, roll something up, and let's figure out what we're going to do in our flex, in our running backs, in our wide receivers. We're going to start with the quarterbacks as we always do. I want to ask you, as I always love to ask you, if you like the content, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. We've recently hit 100 subscribers, and I'm giving away a ton of content, a ton of product here very soon by our sponsor, Danklyfe brand. And you still can get in for the giveaway before I give it out. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and like the content. First quarterback we're talking about today is going to be Matt Stafford versus the Arizona Cardinals. Really not much needs to be said. The Arizona Cardinals have a pretty terrible defense, especially against passing. You're also looking at them now in full swing of things with Cooper Kupp back, fully healthy. Puka Nakua's playing crazy. Things are looking great for the Rams, and things look great for Matt Stafford. I think he has to physically try to not be a decent quarterback this week. Also looking at Kirk the Jerk Cousins. Despite losing Justin Jefferson, I want to start him this week against Chicago as well. He's been reliable this season. He's had one bad week, and it was a really weird game script that week as well. He's damn near a must start at this point. And if you're looking at Chicago allowing 24.2 points per game to quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins looks like a great starting option. I'm also starting Trevor Lawrence and Gardner Minshew in that Colts-Jaguars matchup. First of all, the Colts are allowing no less than 340 yards per game. Plus, you're looking at Trevor Lawrence. I think this is a get-right game for Trevor Lawrence. And Gardner Minshew, this is the return of Minshew Mania in Jacksonville. You saw what he did when he backed up quarterbacks in his past days in Jacksonville, and he's returning. He's got a point to prove, and he's played very serviceably when Anthony Richardson has not been there. And we actually are a better passing offense on the Indianapolis Colts when Gardner Minshew is in. So I definitely like plugging both Trevor Lawrence and Gardner Minshew into my lineup. Some other quarterbacks I want to start today, we're looking at Justin Fields, Joe Burrow, Matt Stafford, like we mentioned, and Dak Prescott as well. Also we're looking at Tua Tagovailoa, but he's a must start at this point. Those are some of the quarterbacks I'm looking to start this week that aren't already must start players. Sitting quarterbacks this week, I'm sitting CJ Stroud, as hard as it is to do. This is his toughest matchup yet, and he did well against his toughest matchup to date last week, coming into this week. But CJ Stroud's playing the New Orleans Saints, and they're allowing 15 points per game to quarterbacks at the current moment. I know he's still mistake-free, hasn't thrown an interception, but they also are leading the league in interceptions. So if there was a game for him to throw his first interception, it's definitely going to be this one. So that's going to be it for CJ Stroud. They don't start him on your lineup. There's got to be better options out there. I'm also not liking how Purdy things are looking for Brock Purdy. It's not a primetime game, first of all. He plays really good in primetime, but can he maintain that focus at an 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time game slot? He's also playing Cleveland, and Cleveland Browns are the second to the 49ers defense in points per game. They also are giving up the fewest yards to quarterbacks and in total this season so far. So things are not looking pretty for Brock this week. I'm also sitting Derek Carr against Houston. His best game was last week, and it was 15 points. Houston's allowing 10 points per game based on passes alone, because you had the Anthony Richardson game where he played well, but as far as passing, they only allowed 10 points or less to every quarterback they've played when it comes to passing alone. I'm also not feeling Ryan Tannehill or Geno Smith this week. Moving on into the running backs, obviously, we got to start with Jonathan Taylor. I'm starting Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss. Zach Moss absolutely killed it last week against the number one rushing defense. JT is still going to be at minimum a 50-50 split this week. I don't think he's going to see less than 16% of snaps like he saw this week. And with Anthony Richardson on injury reserve, we may need to lean on our running backs more in Indianapolis. Like I said, JT should not be on a snap count, and if he is, it's not going to be no 16% kind of crap that he had last week. I'm also starting Alexander Madison for the Vikings. 6 running backs in the first 4 games have put up at least 12.7 points, and Alexander Mattison has scored 12 or more in 3 of his 5 games this season. Things are looking good for Alexander Mattison. I'm also starting James Cook, coming off of the worst game so far this season, but it was a weird game in London. Look at them coming on that return game against the Giants, one of the worst defenses in the league in all aspects. So everything's looking good for James Cook to kind of get back on track this week. I'm also starting Amari Demercado from the Arizona Cardinals, Ramondre Stevenson from the Patriots, and Tyjae Spears. I'm taking a shot on him as well if you need a sleeper to start. Sitting running back of the week is going to be Rachaad White. He's getting a ton of volume, but right now he's kind of a matchup-based flex option for you. The Lions, he's playing the Detroit Lions, and they're an extremely unfavorable matchup for any running back. They're allowing 49 rushing yards per game and 3 yards per carry. Things really just are looking great for Rachaad White in a potentially negative game script ball game. I'm also sitting Jerome Ford from the Cleveland Browns. Without Deshaun Watson in the lineup, they're going to key on the running game. You're also looking at him averaging 48 yards only since Chubb went down. He definitely has his toughest matchup that a running back could possibly get. Playing the San Francisco 49ers, nothing looks good for him this week. Stay away from Jerome Ford. I'm also sitting both Baltimore running backs, Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. And I'm also trying to stay away from Dameon Pierce if I can do it. We're going to be moving on to the pass catchers. Wide receivers that I'm going to be starting are going to be Zay Flowers versus Tennessee. He's got 11 targets last week, 12th in target share. The Titans defense is allowing top 8 wide receiver production in every game this season. So things are looking great for Zay Flowers. I also like Drake London versus the Washington Commanders. He has high usage this month. Desmond Ridder plays well at home, and he also plays pretty decently away as well. And wide receivers have scored a lot of points on the Washington Commanders so far this season. I'm also really going to be looking to start Brandon Ayuk, Michael Pittman Jr., and more than Adam Thielen as well. My sitting wide receiver of the week is going to be Scary Terry McLaurin from the Washington Commanders, just because they face a decent pass defense in the Atlanta Falcons. You heard me talk about wide receivers last week that I didn't want to play against the Atlanta Falcons, and it's not going to change. I do think that he is in line for, I feel like it's touchdown or bust for Terry McLaurin. I think he's going to get some good volume. It's dependent on if Sam Howell can get him the ball or not this week. Moving on to the tight ends, trying to wrap this video up for you guys. My stardom tight end of the week is going to be Cade Otton from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's no Mike Evans, and Detroit is allowing top 3 production from tight ends this season. I also really like Dallas Goedert from the Eagles, Logan Thomas from the Washington Commanders, and Jonnu Smith from the Falcons, all looking good in my lineup. My sitting tight end of the week is David Njoku. He's put up less than 7 points every game this season with Deshaun Watson in the lineup. There's no Deshaun Watson. I'm not going to lie to you. I think I'm sitting every Cleveland Brown that I can this week. I don't think there's a single Cleveland Brown I want in my offense or in my starting lineup. You're also looking at possibly sitting all the Bills tight ends, Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, and I'm not really feeling Gerald Everett as well. Continuing like we did last week, giving y'all a couple of good defensive options as well. I'm starting the Bills defense against the Giants, obviously. We're starting the Dolphins against the Carolina Panthers. We're starting the Las Vegas Raiders against the Patriots, and we're starting the Falcons versus the Washington Commanders. Sitting defenses this week, we're going to be looking at sitting the Jets. They're playing the Eagles, and that's not a great matchup. Also sitting the Buccaneers against Detroit, a really tough defense. A really tough offense as well. And you're also looking at Cleveland playing San Francisco. I'm sitting all 3 of those teams. That's going to do it for this week's Stardoms and Situms. I hope you guys are enjoying this elongated Stardoms and Situms. We're figuring out the best way to bring y'all the information and every single player that we can, including reaching outside of YouTube, getting to a newsletter, things like that. But that's going to be coming down the line. We also have a Discord coming down the line that you're going to hear a lot more about here in the near future. But thank y'all so much for tuning into today's episode. Make sure you like the content and subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and keep your chin up and your attitude all the way down. I'll see y'all next time. Peace out, baby.
Bye.